Hour. Talk radio with bites. We're Pet Life Radio, the #1 pet radio network. Let's talk pets.
Okay. And good morning, good afternoon, whatever the case may be, depending on where you happen to be right now. You are here live with Dr. Jeff Werber, your host for the next 30 minutes here on Pet Life Radio's Ask the Vets with Dr. Jeff. And we're here for you. And we're here thanks to our sponsors as well. And I'd like to welcome our new, we've been talking about them for a while because it's become one of my favorite products, flea products called Brevecto. They are now an official sponsor of Ask the Vets with Dr. Jeff. And of course, Save This Life Microchip Kong Veterinary Products. As I mentioned last week, they had an amazing, fun event called More Than a Cone, where they are taking, they supply us, the veterinary community, with a lot of different really, really fantastic, useful products to make your lives easier with your pets, for your pets. And one of them is the cone, of course, the shameful Elizabethan collar that they have to wear after surgeries or if they're attacking their skin. And they also have the inner tube, the blown up inner tube, which I kind of like as well, the pro collar type of collar. But they have an event where they enlist the assistance, if you will, the participation of world famous artists to paint the cones, and they incorporate the cones in their artwork, or they use the cone as a canvas. And so now when they're going to probably mass produce some of these winning designs, and what's going to happen is that when your dog has to wear one of those cones, they're not going to wear a cone. They're wearing a piece of art. And that's really cool. And of course, the money goes to charity. And to rescue, speaking of rescue, we have a special guest today who has joined me a few years ago when she wrote, if you can see, JJ, the American Street Dog, and how he came to live in our house. And now followed up with, and this is really, really good information, and we have a lot to talk about. We have Diane Rose Solomon with us, and she is now out with what to expect when adopting a dog. And that's really important. It's when you think about it, in many municipalities, certainly in Los Angeles, it is easier to adopt a baby than it is to adopt a dog. And I've had, as an example, and again, I can't figure all of these groups out. It's not my job. I do my best. However, I've had clients that I would consider A+ clients. I'm talking the best of the best. Never say no. Anything we need to do, they do. They will go that extra mile or 10 miles to save their pet. And that pet finally goes, and I refer them to one of the rescue groups I work with. Names, of course, to be withheld at this time because I wasn't so thrilled all the time. And they call me, say they won't adopt to us. It's like, are you kidding? If I died and came back as a dog, I'd want to live with them. And yet they won't adopt. So the criteria that some of them have are, in my opinion, a bit absurd. But the truth of the matter is, one thing they all have in common, and we're going to talk a little bit about this today, and that is there is such a thing as a right dog in the right home, and also the right dog in the wrong home. And I am the brunt of one such dog. I'm sure many of you heard me talk about when I was 5 and was mauled by my Doberman, probably because I slept on him in his sleep, and he just jumped up and grabbed me by the face. And plastic surgery later, we realized, you know what? This may not be the right dog in a house with 4 little kids. A dog who had never seen a kid before. He was off the show ring. You can imagine how hyped up he was. He was magnificent, of course. And fortunately, we were able to replace him in a new home down the street with an older couple who had his sister. So it worked out well for everybody. I've given up another dog. I had we adopted a Corgi. I've loved Corgis. And I thought, you know what? This dog is so great. I've always liked them. And we have so much energy in my house. And I also had 2 Labradors. Well, guess what? Corgis have a natural instinct. Corgis are herding dogs. And you know how they herd? They nip at the heels. Well, if this poor Corgi kept doing what it was doing to my Labradors, he would have been a dead Corgi because they were ready. At first, it was cute. Oh, it really was. But then they were ready to kill him. And around this time, I'm just torturing myself what to do with little Calvin. He was so cute. One of my clients adopts a corgi and says to me, Jeff, she's so lonely at home. I'd love to get another corgi. I said, oh my God, you want another corgi? Do I have the corgi for you?
Corgi for you.
and then all of a sudden, and it worked out so well. These two were Mutt and Jeff. They were inseparable. It was like the perfect combo. So Diane Rose Solomon. Hi, how are you? Welcome.
I'm wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
So tell us about what to expect when adopting a dog. Is it always perfect? Is it always going to work out? And what steps do you go through if it's just not the right match?
Well, let's back up a little bit because you just asked me a couple questions. But even what you started with earlier about the rescue groups, I actually wrote a blog about this last week because a lot of rescue groups are accused of exactly what you're talking about. They make it too difficult. But we got to remember it's out of love because they love the dogs. And
absolutely.
The flip side of the coin is that the shelters are accused of just giving the dog to anybody. So I believe there's somehow a middle ground there that we haven't quite found yet. So I wrote a blog about that last week because I think that they're all doing it out of love. Everybody's doing it out of love. But about this book, I started accidentally rescuing a dog 20 something years ago. That was JJ, the one from my first book, the kids book. And it wasn't my intention to adopt a dog, but I learned then 20 something years ago that between 12 and 16 million adoptable animals were being euthanized in the shelters. And it just broke my heart. And I said, well, I need to be somebody that, since I have this information, will share it with other people. And what can we do to make it better? And over the years, I ended up adopting a bunch more dogs, one or two who needed to get rehomed because it just wasn't the right fit. In fact, a girlfriend of mine just posted on Facebook the other day. She had to rehome this dog, loved the dog, but it wasn't working out with her kids. And she was putting her kids' safety first. And it's so important. And in fact, at the end of my book, I have a whole little section about what you need to do if you really have to rehome the book. Because the whole first, 9/10 of the book is what can we do to prevent this from happening in the first place? How do we make it a successful partnership, a pet parenting experience? But sometimes it happens. And then what do I need to know if that's so I can do it right? And so it's in the best interest of the dog. And that the dog's in a safe place. But this book was really born after having a lot of years of personal experience rescuing animals, and then starting to write JJ the American Street Dog, and then the sequel, JJ Goes to Puppy Class, a couple of years after that. And then I became a certified humane education specialist, and I was working in schools, going to schools and talking about compassion and responsibility and kindness. And then I became like the go-to person with my friends and my community. Well, Diane's the expert. Let's ask her. And, where do we need to go, Diane, to find this kind of a dog? Or my dog is ailing, and, because you had an ailing dog, what do I do? And if I didn't have the answer, I knew where to send them. And then I realized, gosh, all these people are asking me these questions, and these are people that I know. How many people are there out there that have the same or similar or even different questions that I don't know? That could really benefit from all this information that I've got in my head, and I put it out in the book. And it wasn't just my expertise in the book. I reached out to pet professionals, veterinarians, people in holistic medicine, people in the rescue world, other pet parents who had different experience from me and professional experience, and I included their expertise in the book. So it's not just me, it's a ton of experts in the book, and it's an incredible resource. The book is over 100 links to articles and organizations and products that I've used and recommended over the years.
So, I work with a lot of rescue groups,
Right.
And one of the biggest problems. And first of all, you're so correct. The numbers are staggering about how many amazing dogs get to put to sleep, which leads me to another issue that I often have. And I have, and you sort of stated it so accurately about, it's all done out of love.
Right.
And I think that is potentially, or there are oftentimes that love can be a negative. And I'll explain what I mean in a minute. There are, as you mentioned, several millions of pets that are put to sleep that are extremely adoptable. And I often argue with my, and again, when you're in practice for a long time, and I'm doing this is my 33rd year, is that you add a hat. You have your medicine hat, your surgery hat, all your expertises, and I like to call mine the practicality hat. And it's not being cold, it's being practical. It's seeing things so many times, you know what the outcome is going to be. And it really, I'm not the same veterinarian I was 30 years ago when I was going to save the world and save every animal. Now you realize, there are a lot of diseases and conditions out there that are way bigger than we are. And as a private practicing veterinarian, as opposed to a university veterinarian, yes, I look at the big picture. I do take the blinders off. It's not just the pet. It is the home. It is the family. It is their financial situation. All these other things have to come into play when we're making decisions about a pet's care and a pet's future. And one thing I'm forever battling the rescue groups is the amount of money they are sinking in to a pet that, yes, is cute, but is just not adoptable after they get it well. And I'm not talking $100. I'm talking over $1,000. I say to them, wait a second, time out. You guys get a great deal from the shelter. You can pull a dog out for sometimes $40. Do you know how many adoptable dogs you can pull out for those $3,000? You know how many lives you can save? And here you are fighting to save one, which you can already see is a losing battle. And even if we get it through, the dog is 14. It's not going to be very adoptable. You got to stop being stupid and you got to look at practicality. Yeah. What's the smart thing? So I do put up with that. But their second biggest problem, other than that short-sightedness, is that a lot of the rescue groups, most of them don't have space. They have the heart. They have the endless supply of dogs and cats that are very adoptable. But where do you put them? The veterinarians don't have the space. I mean, a few. Right. And fosters. The key to this, if anyone's out there and has the ability to add on a pet. I mean, they joke with me all the time. I already have 11. So my house is pretty full. My bed is full. But if you are out there and you can lend a temporary home to a pet, you should try to get a hold of some of these rescue groups because their limiting factor, it's not the money, right? I mean, yes, it is to a degree, but mostly with them, it's the space. Okay, I can pull this dog out of the shelter. This dog, I can get adopted. I can take it to the adoption fairs on the weekends, on Saturday and Sunday. But what happens on Monday through Friday? Where am I going to put this dog?
Right.
So I think that is, a concern of mine. So, from your perspective, so I would say in my experience, I'd say 98%, 95% of these rescues are successful. Where a pet is adopted by a family. Oh, also one thing I should mention, a lot of the dogs that are finally adopted are adopted by their fosters. In other words, the foster failure. It's sort of like a test run. They see that, oh my God, this is really cool. I don't want somebody else to have this dog. I want this dog. And that's great because then they know what they're getting into. Then they don't have that sticker shock. Then they don't get to where they finally take that dog home for the first time and where you go, oh my God, I actually have to clean up all this poop and I have to walk them and I have to do all these things and be around and I can't go out for the weekend anymore. I got to get someone to take care of the dog. All these things you have to consider. And when you already have a dog in your home and you're fostering it, you're used to it, and he or she is used to you and your routine, it makes the adoption so much easier.
Yeah.
What happens when it's unsuccessful? That's what I want to talk about is also. I'm glad it's not only happened to me because I know I'm telling you,
it happens a lot.
And one thing I will tell you about the rescue groups, which I do really, really admire, is that everyone, I don't know a single one, at least the single one that I work with, that don't say to you, if this doesn't work out, please bring the dog back to us. Don't try to place it yourself.
Right.
We'll take care of it.
Back to the shelter. Yeah, right. Exactly. Which is very admirable. But actually, one of the questions you asked me earlier, and I'll address this both questions, is, I try to set you up for success in this book. And the very first module asks if you're even ready for, are we ready for the responsibility? And I offer a whole checklist in the first module to even be starting to think about some of the questions. Do I have a space in my home? Are we financially in a place? Because some people are very impulsive, or they get a gift of a dog and it's just not the right timing, or it doesn't mean you're not going to have a dog at another point. Or there's some people that say, well, I'm not ready because I work all the time. Well, you can still have a dog, and the dog is better off in your home than in the shelter, but you got to get a dog walker. Or take him to doggy daycare, or be willing to do something. But you can have a dog if you work full time. It's just you got to be willing to do the workarounds. And then the second, module in the book, it talks about, well, where do you even go? Because a lot of people don't even know where to go. They're thinking that they might want to adopt a dog, but they don't even know where to go. So I help them through that process. And then the third module is, what do you need to do and have, ready so that you're successful? So the point is, I'm setting you up for success. But the next question you just asked is, what do you do when you're not successful?
All right. So before we get there, we have to break. It is our halfway point to the show. Hold that thought. Everybody, you stay tuned. Now, that was the teaser commercial. So now you definitely want to stay tuned. We'll be right back after these short words. Don't go away. You're here with Dr. Jeff and Diane Rose Solomon.
We'll be right back, right after these messages. Stay tuned.
This is my tired of itching face.
Does your dog suffer from persistent itching and scratching, allergies and skin irritations caused by environment, pollens, insects, especially fleas? Food and common household allergens are common problems in dogs. It's easy to alleviate your dog's discomfort at home with ProSense. ProSense itch and allergy products provide fast relief from symptoms like itchy, irritated skin, skin infections like hot spots, and watery eyes. ProSense products are veterinary formulated and recommended to ensure the very best for your pet. Try ProSense today. Your dog will thank you for it. Pets love life. Love them back with ProSense.
It's hard to find time for your furry family member. That's where Camp Bow Wow comes in. All-day play and overnight camp, daycare and boarding for dogs. Everything included. Large play areas for fun and exercise. Spacious cabins, comfy cots, even live camper cams to watch from a computer or smartphone. Camp Bow Wow offers the best care and is the place to go where a dog can be a dog. For locations and more information, visit campbowwow.com.
It's designerpetsweaters.com. Hand-knitted designer sweaters for your precious pup or cool cat. Beautiful couture patterns for your pets, including custom-knitted formal wear, casual wear, yachting, and even sports-themed. Many designer pet sweaters include feathered tammy hats, top hats, and a lot of sparkle. Each sweater includes leg loops, front paw sleeves, and leash opening. Visit designerpetsweaters.com to order your four-legged fashions today. Large or small, we fit them all. designerpetsweaters.com.
Want to know who the latest trendsetters are in Hollywood? How about Irish setters? Find out who's been spotted with Spot, chowing with their chow, and shopping for Gucci with their Poochie. Get the scoop on all the latest celebrity pet patter right here. Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets. Let's talk pets.
Let's talk pets
On Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
Okay. And welcome back. You're here live with Dr. Jeff Werber and our special guest, Diane Rose Solomon. If you have any questions for either of us, give us a call, 877-385-8882. Once again, 877-385-8882. You can also join us right here, and you can join us. Just go into Pet Life Radio's website, petliferadio.com. Click on the shows, Ask the Vets with Dr. Jeff tab, and follow the instructions. There's a link right there, and then you can join us live as well. So before the break, Diane, we were talking about the problem, fortunately, much less common, but it does happen. And I think I just don't want people to know that solutions, that it's not that if I adopt this pet, I'm stuck with it for life, even if it doesn't work out. That most of the rescues, there are ways. Diane?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. My internet's really.
Go ahead and tell us what.
Okay, I gotcha.
There you are. You're back.
Okay, you can hear me. Okay.
Yep.
Well, first of all, the rescue groups put in some preventative measures. First of all, usually there's a 2-week period when you get to know your dog if you're not fostering, during which, if it's not working out, now is the time to bring the dog back. Not a year later when you decide it's just not convenient, because that's not really cool. And I would say, instead of, not so much what do you do, but what you don't want to do, because with the rescue groups, yes, first choice goes back to the rescue group for sure, because they cared for the dog. They know the dog. They want to be able to place the dog in a loving home. But even just yesterday, I was looking at some classifieds in the newspaper. I'm traveling right now. And I can't tell you how many people were trying to rehome their dog through the classifieds. And it's heartbreaking because these people who have, quote unquote, loved this dog for X amount of time, they're just giving their dog to whoever potentially shows up. Maybe they'll vet out, who the potential adopter is, but who knows who's adopting them? So I would say classified is not a good way to go. And bring them back to the shelter. You just don't know. There's a really good chance that they're going to the shelter and they're not getting out of the shelter. So that's not a good choice either. A friend
Diane,
of mine,
hold on.
Yes.
I think we have Dimitri. Is that you over there? Can you see us? Looks like we have a caller. Nope.
Bye-bye, Dimitri.
Disappeared. Sorry.
No problem.
Diane,
a friend of mine, a friend of mine a couple of years ago, she had a cat who her new husband was allergic to, and she asked all of her friends and found, like you did, the perfect home for her cat, who she had had for a long time, with a friend that she trusted. And I think that's the key. If it can't go back to the rescue because you got the dog from the shelter or from off the street or whatever, and it's not working out, you got to do your due diligence. And there's a great article that I send you to in my book from Adopt a Pet, and it's exactly this: what you need to do when you have to rehome a dog. And adoptapet.com, it's a huge resource in my book. They have some great articles, and that's one of them.
Again, I'm so happy this was written because, well, first of all, in many municipalities, for very, very good reason, the days of the pet store in the mall selling these, unfortunately, very cute puppies, also unfortunately not always very healthy puppies, but certainly very cute. And you mentioned about impulse, how it should never be an impulse situation in the first place. A gift. Every time I go through the holiday chants, and here we have not too far away coming up the holidays, and I always tell people never buy a pet as a gift, because
I can't hear you, Jeff.
Parents to the gift. But out of impulse there. And
you know what, Jeff, I can't hear you.
We know they have venues for adopting from the get it from a or go to the shelters.
Jeff, I lost you. I don't know if you can hear me at all. I can't hear anything. I'm so sorry.
As a gift, because parents to the gift. But out of impulse there. And
what, Jeff, I can't hear you.
Diane, until Jeff logs back in, why don't you talk?
Okay, great. So yeah, I'm not really sure what happened there. I don't know if what was wrong with the connection. But one of the things that I was thinking about earlier when we were talking about rehoming and really how this book was created, my brand new book, What to Expect When Adopting a Dog, was created so that pet parents can have a successful experience, so that they never have to get to that point. And as I mentioned, there's the first 3 modules that really set you up for success just in the preparation. And then in the 4th module, I talk about like integrating a pet into your life and safety for your children, if you have children or any people in your life, and safety for the dog, because you want everybody to be safe and be having a really good experience. And then in the last module, I talk about more advanced stuff. And what if you have a really high energy dog? A lot of dogs go back to the shelter because they're just nuts, and good nuts, high energy. They need a job though, like a herding type dog. They need a job. And so there's agility classes that they can take. There's so much that you can do if you're willing to do it. And that's one of the things I talk about in the book, is knowing the breed of the dog that you're going to have before you set out on this journey, so that you can be successful, so that you don't even have to entertain these conversations at some point. And then at the very end, I talk about some advanced stuff, like some advanced health things that one might need to know about, and senior dogs and that sort of stuff. And I was actually at an event yesterday. I'm visiting in Oregon, and I was at an event yesterday with a few rescue groups, and they were talking about how, even though it's so hard to adopt from a rescue group, which is how Dr. Jeff was starting out the conversation, they get so many fewer returns on their dogs. I think I heard like 5% was the number, because they take the time to really match the dog with the family. And in contrast, the shelters get many more return dogs because it wasn't a good match. And so there is something to the vetting process from the rescue groups. And yet I totally understand that the shelters are so overcrowded, and they really just need to do their best to find the dogs at home, so that they're not euthanized, and so that they can make room for another dog. So I respect both sides of it. It's hard. They're all doing their best. And in fact, it's interesting too. I'm visiting in Oregon right now, and I'm from California, where there's a tremendous pet overpopulation situation still happening. And the southern states, I was reading a book called Rescue Road a few months ago, fantastic book. And it talks about how in the deep south, how many millions of animals there are that are homeless. But there's transport. There's an organization in Southern California called START, and they transport dogs up to Oregon, where I am right now, and in Washington State, where there's more families waiting for adoptable dogs that they just want to help, who they know have been in the shelter. So there's a lot of really good people doing a lot. And my goal is just to help people before they get into the pet parenting process, and then all throughout it, so that it can be a successful experience. And there was a family adopting a dog yesterday, and I said, look at my new book, this will be so helpful. And they walked out with a copy yesterday. They were so excited because they had a lot of questions too. So the book is really for the whole all the steps before you're even ready, when you're ready, and then even once you have the dog, what do we need to know now? So it's a very comprehensive book. How are we on time, Mark?
Oh, okay. Hang on. Jeff is having trouble logging back in.
Okay, well, I'll keep talking.
Let me try sending you both a new link. I'll end this one.
Okay.
And maybe If you can get in the chat room, I'll set up a new hangout.
You want me to log out and then log back in?
I'll send you a new link.
Okay.
Go to the chat room. No, I have to set it up again. I have to have you both do it. Let me hang.
Okay. Okay.